Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Mizamani G. It's time to review the first horror movie and the first horror movie review for 2024. It is Night Swim. Yes. Here we go.
Y'all ready for this?
Hey, horror fans! Once again, it is me, the Horror Mizamani G. Now, Night Swim is a 2024 American supernatural horror film that was written and directed by Bryce McGuire. It is based upon a short story of the same name written by Bryce McGuire and Rod Blackhurst. Now, the film stars Wyatt Russell, Terry Condon, Amelia Hofarel, and Gavin Warren. Now, in this film, a family, after moving into their new house, is terrorized by an evil spirit in their swimming pool. Uh-oh, don't have any swimming parties, guys. Now, horror fans, when it comes to horror movies being released by movie studios, the ones they really don't have much faith in normally will be released during the month of January. Now, that's because January is a very bleak month, the holidays over with, and not much happens during the month of January, so any movies they know they're not going to get a big return, they're going to release them during the month of January, whether they're good or bad. And most of the time, they're bad. Now, we've had some terrible horror movies that were released during the month of January, such as the Bye Bye Man back in 2017 and Devil's Dune back in 2014. Yeah, there's some others, but those are the first two that come to my mind when it comes to horror movies that were terrible released during the month of January. Now, we did have a couple of horror films that were released in the month of January that were actually very, very good, such as last year's hit Megan and Scream 6. Yes, both of those films released in the month of January are very good, excellent horror films. There's some horror films that also were pretty good that were released in the month of January, but obviously because it took place last year, those are the first two that came to mind. So that brings us to American filmmaker, writer, director Bryce McGuire in his directorial debut, and also based upon the short story he created with his writing partner, Black Ron Blackhurst, on his latest project. It's called Night Swim. Now, after a short prologue, we are introduced to the Waller family. They're looking for a permanent residence after Ray Waller, who was a former Major League Baseball player, was forced to retire due to a chronic illness. I believe the illness is called MS, multiple sclerosis, which is something I can't relate to because unfortunately my mother suffered from MS for a very long time before it eventually took her life. Now, after buying a nice house with a swimming pool, things seem fine. Everything's going fine until Ray, after cutting himself while cleaning up the pool, starts suffering strange things starts to happen to him and his children, Izzy and Elliot. They also start to experience supernatural occurrences. What the world? Ray, all of a sudden, he seems to be very healthy. He's very good. He can run. He can do all sorts of things. Like weird things are happening to him while his children, his daughter Izzy and his son Elliot, start to experience supernatural occurrences. So can Ray's wife Eve find out what's happening to Ray and discover what's going on with the swimming pool? It's kind of basically what the film is about. Now, I'll have to give Bryce McGuire credit for coming up with a clever idea by using a swimming pool as the basis of this particular film. No, because when looking down, we've seen this premise before used in other horror films such as Wish Upon, but using a swimming pool is a clever idea. We've seen other haunted objects. I'm pretty sure we've seen all the haunted objects before in the Friday the 13th series and some other horror films that uses the monkey paw gimmick all sorts of time. But using a swimming pool is a kind of a clever idea. So you have to give Bryce and the writing team credit. Unfortunately, it seems that Bryce and his team didn't put enough effort to create something creepy and frightening, as his film is quite boring and dull. Nothing creepy happens throughout the film as we see Eve struggle to find out what's happening to Ray and why her children are afraid to go into the pool. It's just, okay, what's happening? Come on, let's go, but then nothing happens. There are a couple moments there I believe they're supposed to be creepy. One that will give the audience It Chapter 1 vibes, and another one involving Izzy playing Marco Polo with her boyfriend. But it seems that Bryce can't create any type of tension or suspense in either of those scenes. You really need something creepy, frightening, or scary happening in those scenes, and unfortunately, nothing does. You really can't fault the actors as Wyatt Russell and Terry Condon, along with Amelia Hoferel and Gavin Warren, try their best to give the film what it needs, but unfortunately, it seems like Bryce and filmmakers don't give them much to work with. I mean, I really enjoyed the acting between all four actors and actresses. They seem to have great chemistry together. You really believe that they're a family that's troubled, especially when all the this weird shit starts happening to them. But unfortunately, the film doesn't give them much to work with because it's like we're all still waiting for something that we believe is going to put the family in danger. But at any time throughout the film, we don't feel any type of danger for them because it's simply just not enough. I mean, you get a few creepy looking ghosts. We've seen that before. You get your typical and unfortunately very poor attention, some jump scares, some of the worst jump scares I've seen in a while. And then a lackluster exposition in what's really happening in the swimming pools. What's going on in the swimming pool, what's causing this to happen. And then we get that explanation, probably coming right towards the end of the film, right? When the third act starts to happening, it's like, okay, that's it. That's what you're going for. That's the best you could come up with. Now, I've never seen Bryce McGuire or Rod Blackheart's short story that they wrote. I think it was came out in 2014. I believe it's on YouTube if you haven't seen it before. But I guess everyone loved it enough that they pitched it to James Wan, and James Wan said, "Hey, let's make a feature film about it." But it's like for some reason they didn't want to push the envelope. Now, I'll say this is not a bad horror film. I believe it's constantly made, it's very well produced. And then he seems to have a nice eye for directing, but unfortunately, and again, it's not as bad as the films that I mentioned. This is not the Bye Bye Man. This is not Devil's Dude. But unfortunately, this could have been a good opportunity for Bryce, but it looks like he missed the mark on this one to make a decent horror film. But unfortunately, the only thing he made here is the one that's kind of dull, boring, and lackluster. It's like, oh, God, you really missed the ballpark. Yeah, maybe he'll just have to try again. So I'm going to give Night Swim only 2 out of my 5 bloody gold coins. Like I said before, again, it's a company-made film. It's very well acted, but it just lacks the type of scares and the suspension and atmosphere that you need for a decent horror film, and this film just doesn't have it. So there you go, guys. That is my video and review of Night Swim. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, and share because it does help out with that YouTube algorithm. Have you seen Night Swim? What do you thought about it? Leave your comments in the comment section below and tell you what you thought about the film. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime when I put up new videos such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember that horror rules. And I see you in my next video. Like I say, safe out.